degrees Celsius, so near average, just feeling on the chilly side where you are stuck under the cloud and rain all day. On Tuesday, still a lot of cloud around, but I'm hopeful there'll be a few more brighter breaks for a time before the next weather system brings heavier rain and some stronger winds into western parts of the UK, and then generally turning wetter and windier as we move through the week, and temperatures, particularly in the south, above average.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
Hi, I'm Jane. I won £54,321 with the Great British Giveaway. Oh, definitely please enter. It is real, and that one text has just made my life 100% better.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh no, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country, whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
Good evening, it's 9 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong Tonight. Well, almost every weekend now I'm bringing you some sort of breaking news on this show, aren't I? Because there has been another defection to Reform UK. Breaking tonight, Conservative Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs and Member of Parliament for Romford, Andrew Rosindell, has joined Reform UK. Also tonight.
Is a straightforward discussion. Would you actually use the word fascist about a Nigel Farage-led government or not?
I guess I would just say that if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, in my experience, it usually is a duck.
There's a lot of quacking going on, isn't there? The Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, seems to accuse Reform UK of being a fascist party. Well, tonight, we're going to play a new game show called Is It Labour or Reform Policy? Trust me, it's going to be good fun. Also,
we need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland.
Maybe I need Greenland too, who knows? Is the government guilty of sheer hypocrisy over Greenland's sovereignty when Chagosians didn't even get a vote before their country was given to Mauritius? Also, a Kenyan rapist who was abducted a woman was allowed to stay in Britain after the Home Office waited nearly, get this, 26 years to deport him. Is this another sign of how broken our system is? Well, with almost 3 decades of that man being able to stay in our country. Also, the number of schools marking Holocaust Day has halved since Hamas's terrorist attack on October the 7th, 2024. How are schools being captured by anti-Semitism? Also,
reforms will help us prevent crime in the first place, because that's the way that you do your work, to tackle it when it happens, and to stop it from spiralling.
Well, a shocking new map reveals UK's worst sex crime hotspots. And with sex crimes on the rise in Britain, I'm going to tell you how bad your area might be. And joining me tonight, well, it's very good timing, isn't it? Former Tory MP Anna Firth is here. I'm sure she's got a lot to say about these defections. Pub landlord and activist and GBNews superstar Adam Brooks, Labour councillor for Waltham Forest, Sebastian Selleck, is also joining me. And what's happening here?
We are live over downtown Minneapolis where, yes, that is a protester in a Viking costume riding what appears...
Could have been one of my producers, actually. Is this AI? I don't know. I can't tell the difference. Can you? A huge 2 hours coming up. But first, we're going to get your news with the brilliant Bethany Elsey.
Alex, thank you. Good evening. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 3 minutes past 9. And some breaking news in the last hour. Reform UK has gained another Conservative MP as the Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs, Andrew Rosindell, defects to the party. Rosindell, who's been the MP for Romford for 25 years, first joined the Conservative Party when he was 14 years old. Nigel Farage cited the Conservative Party's so-called hypocritical position over the Chagos Islands as his reason for defecting. The Reform UK leader welcomed the move, describing him as a great patriot. NATO members have condemned Donald Trump's threat to impose further import tariffs unless the US is allowed to buy Greenland, saying a trade war over the territory undermines transatlantic relations. The UK and other European countries held an emergency meeting this afternoon and released a joint statement saying the US president's demands are completely wrong and they risk a dangerous downward spiral. Trump has already imposed a 10% tariff on all goods from Britain and the EU, and that'll increase to 25% if he can't take over the Danish territory. The Shadow Home Secretary, Priti Patel, says the UK's position is that the future of Greenland should be up to its people and Denmark.
Number one is reiterate the strength of NATO and that alliance. That's important to our security and defence. We should speak with one voice and stand united when it comes to dealing with aggressors such as Russia, when it comes to our Arctic security. And then, of course, make the case, as always, we believe in open markets, that tariffs are completely counterproductive and it will hurt the people in America just like it would hurt the British people here.
It's been reported 2 Labour ministers are ready to quit over David Lammy's plans to scrap some jury trials. The Justice Secretary has faced backlash from lawyers and MPs over the proposals, but the government says it's the only way to tackle the backlog in the courts. Carl Turner, a former Shadow Attorney General who's leading the fight against the plans, told The Telegraph 2 ministers have told him they'll resign if the plans go ahead. 4,500 properties in the Maidstone area of Kent and hundreds more in Tunbridge Wells have little to no water supply after an electrical fault at a treatment works and a burst main pipe. They're the latest problems to affect South East Water customers after days of similar disruption earlier this week. The company says the fault has been fixed, but it'll take time for supply to return to normal. And Australian news outlets are reporting a teenage boy is fighting for his life after being attacked by a shark in Sydney Harbour. The boy, believed to be just 13 years old, suffered serious leg injuries and was taken to a children's hospital. He was swimming at Shark Beach, which has since been closed, and people have been told to avoid the area. You're up to date. Let's get back to Alex.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome to the show. Well, it seems more and more every week I'm bringing you some kind of breaking news. And breaking news in the last hour, Conservative Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister and Romford MP Andrew Rosindell has defected to Reform UK. Well, Rosindell, who also served as Shadow Home Affairs Minister from 2007 to 2010, ends a lifelong association with the Conservative Party, having been a member since the age of 14. Well, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage said Rosindell's decision was driven by what he described as the Conservative Party's hypocritical stance on the Chagos Islands. The Romford MP becomes the second Member of Parliament to join Reform UK this week, of course, following Robert Jenrick's defection on Thursday. He announced this on X. This evening, with sorrow, I have decided to resign from my position as an opposition shadow minister and as a member of the Conservative and Unionist Party. Since joining the Conservative Party at the age of 14, I have been a loyal and committed supporter of the principles advocated by Margaret Thatcher that have always underpinned my own political beliefs. However, the time has come to put country before party. The failure of the Conservative Party, both when in government and more recently in opposition, to actively hold the government to account on the issue of the Chagosian self-determination and the defence of British sovereignty represents a clear red line for me. Since entering Parliament in 2001, I have consistently argued, both from the backbenches and the front benches, that the right to self-determination of the Chagosian people is sacrosanct and that they alone should decide the future sovereignty of the Chagos Islands. Regrettably, these concerns have fallen on deaf ears. Both the government and the opposition have been complicit in the surrender of this sovereign British territory to a foreign power. This was made abundantly clear by the failure of Conservative peers to vote down the British Indian Ocean Territory Bill at third reading earlier this month, following direction from the top of the party. Sadly, I now believe that the Conservative Party is irreparably bound to the mistakes of previous governments and unwilling to take meaningful accountability for the poor decisions made over so many issues. Moreover, the views and concerns of constituents such as mine in Romford have been consistently ignored for far too long. Following a conversation earlier this evening with Nigel Farage MP, I have therefore agreed to join Reform UK as its 7th Member of Parliament. It is clear to me that Reform UK is now the only political movement that is genuinely willing to fight for the best interests of the United Kingdom. The views and concerns of the majority of the British people must no longer be sidelined. Our country has endured a generation of managed decline. Radical action is now required to reverse the damaging decisions of the past and to forge a new course for Britain, one that firmly places the interests of the British people first. Well, that is quite a message, isn't it? Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Former Tory MP Anna Firth, who is chomping at the bit here. Can't wait to hear what you think. Pub landlord, activist and GBNews superstar Adam Brooks is here, and Labour councillor for Waltham Forest, Sebastian Salek. Welcome all. Well, Anna, I have to start with you.
Well, thank you.
A former colleague of yours.
Absolutely. An Essex MP, and I am really disappointed to hear this news. I was talking to Andrew, on WhatsApp only yesterday, and it's always really sad when a colleague defects like this, but I think he's making a big mistake, and I really find it very, very surprising. OK, I know he is close to Jenrick, but Andrew Rosindell is a devout Thatcherite. His association office is called Margaret Thatcher House. He's joining a party that could not be less Thatcherite. There is no way Mrs Thatcher would ever condone Nigel Farage's admiration for Putin. There's no way she'd have any truck with a party that has £140 billion of spending in their manifesto, that has no plan to get spending down, in fact has plans to put spending up, and basically is another control and command party. So I'm really surprised that he's joining Reform, given that. He's cited the Chagos Islands. Now, I'm not in Parliament any longer. I'm not as close to this as I would have been. But my understanding is we've been fighting these Chagos proposals tooth and nail, including winning 4 votes in the Lords. So for me, that doesn't add up at all.
Well, I do understand what he's saying about the Lords and the mess that happened in the House of Lords following that reading. There was an opportunity to have a kill motion, and it wasn't taken. Now, there's people pointing to there being chaos in the House of Lords, which I don't think that really supports the case of the Lords very much. When I watched the video of that debate, it was pretty shambolic, I have to say. But Sebastian, how are you going to feel in Labour over there about all these defections? Maybe just putting aside, of course, I'm sure Labour's happy that the right is fighting over itself. I can see that. Putting aside that for a second, what is the view on the left, at least, or the centre-left, about the Conservative Party? Do you think it's dead?
I personally don't, and I think this is one of my more contrarian views. I think we're massively underpricing the Tories. Of course, the near-term threat for Labour is reform. You have to be live to that. But there's a broad trend that the longer anything has existed for, the longer it will continue to exist. And this is just a natural part, I think, for the Tories of the cycle. You come out of a bruising election defeat after many years in power, you lick your wounds, you reinvent yourself, you start again. And if there's one thing the Tories are really good at, it's reinventing themselves. So I'm sure they'll be back. And the question for people like Rosindell, people like Jenrick is, what does this mean for your career? They both talk about putting country before party. And I just don't buy it, especially with Jenrick. It is the short-term move that gets you the job the soonest, because if somebody is going to come into government after Labour, it's probably going to be Reform and not the Tories. Yeah,
Adam, this is going to be welcome news to a lot of his constituents, though. When you look at the polling in his area, that's heavily leaning into Reform UK. It looks like if there were council elections, they would go Reform in quite a turquoise wave, so to speak. Andrew Rosindell, who I know, by the way, and I have to declare this, I do know Andrew. He's a very, very lovely, lovely man. He's very patriotic. He is the kind of person that Reform would want. He's also not a massive ego, which would be probably quite welcome news for Reform, because they have got quite a lot of egos in the party. He won't be one of those people sort of brushing shoulders, will he?
I've got a lot of friends in the Romford area, and he's very highly regarded, to be fair. He cares about his area and he cares about his constituents. And you said earlier that you feel he's made a mistake. I think this is the best move that he could make, because no one I know, and I speak to a hell of a lot of people day in, day out, will vote Conservative. The Uni Party is dead to them, and it's all on trust. There's no way you're going to get that trust back. Doesn't matter how powerful Kemi speaks in PMQs, they're done, as far as I'm concerned, with the people I talk to. One thing about Andrew, he's had strong criticism of immigration over the years. He's certainly right of the Conservative Party. He called for deportation of illegal immigrants. He argued that we should sharply reduce legal migration. He said that immigrants should have to speak English. For me, he's saying all the right things in his actions over the last 2 years or so that I've sort of followed what he's done. back that up. I think he lends to reform perfectly. I backed the move for Jenrick. I did not back Nadeem Zahawi. I think that's a strange one, and I think that's a mistake. But I think Andrew Rosindell is going to be an asset to reform, and as you say, his constituents love him. So it's a bonus.
Anna, there's a concern here, and I've been speaking to Tories since Jenrick's defection. A lot of them message me, and I've got friends in the Conservative Party, and I asked them, what does this mean? Because a lot of the people that I speak to, particularly on the right of the party, were holding out that Kemi Badenoch was going to be gone on May the 7th and they'd have Jenrick installed as party leader. What does this say about the future of the Conservative Party? You've now lost someone like Andrew Rosindell, a quiet MP. He's not well known throughout the country, let's be real. He's a quiet guy. Most people wouldn't know who he is. But that's the sort of Tories you want to be able to keep in the party.
Look, I think the question is, what does this say about the Reform Party? Nigel Farage is always saying that we're not like the Tories, we're a new party, we're going to be different, and yet all he's doing is attracting, mostly discredited, failed Tories. Now, I'm not going to put Andrew Rosindell in that bracket because he is a nice guy. I think he's very misguided on this. But it's extremely odd to me to say Britain is broken, which is the Farage mantra, and yet the very people you are recruiting because you say you haven't got the experience to govern are the people who you apparently say broke Britain.
Do you think
that
Britain's
does
broken?
not make sense.
Do you think Britain's broken?
I do not think Britain is broken.
I do. I really do.
And do you know why?
And even if it's a political line, which I totally understand what you're saying, it's Reform have managed to take that mantra on, and I get that. Separately from politics, when I look at the state of the country, when I look at all the problems we have, I think the admission that Britain is broken is the first step in being able to fix it. It's almost like saying, your car might have one wheel and go, it's not broken.
No,
Alex,
Alex, because I think we have huge challenges. Absolutely. I think this government is completely broken. I think this government has been an absolute disaster. I think there is an argument, some people would say politics, and certainly trust in politics is broken. That is a very different thing from saying that our great country is broken. Let me give you one fact.
Sure.
Over the 14 years that the Tories were in power, we went from having some of the worst results in literacy, in science and in maths, in the OECD, in their PISA tests, to having the best readers in the Western world.
That was the best thing the Conservative government achieved. When I look back on its 14 years, education was a sterling part of your work.
But it wasn't the only thing we achieved.
I think it was the best thing you did.
I agree with that. I'm happy to agree with that. But we are, and I think it's so important for young people who are going out into the workplace now to believe in this country. And if we all run it down and if we all keep saying Britain is broken, you are going to have a whole load of young people who are going to be depressed. And that'll be on you.
The problem with that question is that it's subjective. The word broken means something different to all of us, and so it's impossible to answer. The easier question is, do we need to reform the system or do we need to burn it down? And ironically, Reform is advocating, I think, for ripping down the system, and that's where I start to disagree with that party.
There's only one party that's going to leave the ECHR, and that is Reform. The Conservative wets would never... Look, your party, no disrespect, your party is full of
policy.
people...
You can only stand...
that will not leave the ECHR.
No, it's going to be...
Every MP that is joining Reform is signing up to leaving the ECHR. So if they get in, we leave.
I don't know if you heard the party chairman on this channel this morning saying that the only people who'll be able to stand for the Conservatives at the next general election will be people who've signed up to saying they will leave the ECHR.
The Conservatives flooded this country with millions of people, and millions that have not integrated, millions that are not working, millions that are now signing on. The Conservatives lied to us. I was a Conservative voter till 2019, and I'm embarrassed so. But the only silver lining is that I would never vote for Labour. So now I've got the choice of change. And that is what people out there want. They want something different. If Reform mess up...
Adam, what do you think is...
Well, can I ask you this, and then I'll come back over to you, Sebastian, because I think there's some questions for the Labour Party about this too, because we're going to get a Labour defection on Tuesday to the Reform Party, so I want to talk about that. But what does it say... when the polls have clearly quite shifted, particularly for the right of politics, when you do speak to the right of British, right-minded people, I would say, and working class people who voted for the Conservative Party, which I think they did with Boris Johnson.
Absolutely.
The Tories lost that vote again. So you had it for a short period of time and then obviously you lost it. How do you think you're going to be able to regain, your party's going to be able to regain that trust back with Kemi Badenoch, who was obviously a minister in the government?
Yeah, because Kemi Badenoch is the only person who is serious about controlling public spending. She's the only one who's going to go into the next general election with a proper plan on the economy, to actually reduce taxes. You know, Kemi's plan to reduce stamp duty is going to take a massive barrier, a massive hurdle away from young people. There are no such plans coming from Reform, none whatsoever. And what I would say to you, Adam, is what do you think is the biggest problem that's going to face this country come the next election? Right. Well, I'd say you're wrong on that. I agree with you, it's a problem. I agree with you, it's a problem. I know, but the reality is, Adam, it's going to be the economy, the level of debt that our country is in. And I'm sorry, Sebastian, but your party is running up the debt and increasing the debt.
A very quick final word from you on this. Labour's going to have a defection next week. Bad news for Labour working class people. You're losing them too?
I think irrelevant, really. The two names that have been touted, neither of them are still MPs. Both of them were Brexiteers. Neither of them will be particularly surprising. So I don't think it's going to be a massive wound to the Labour Party, whoever it is.
All right, we've got a guest to talk about this. I think you're going to like the guest coming up very, very briefly. But we're just going to quickly go to a giveaway now. So you've got 85 grand you can win. Don't forget that's still going. Here's all the details and stay with us because I think you're going to like our next guest.
There's only 2 weeks left to ensure you're in the draw to win our biggest cash prize so far. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
Hi, I'm Jane from Manchester. I won £54,321 with the Great British Giveaway. It is real and it does happen to everyday people like myself. And that one text has just made my life 100% better.
But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, coming up, after 26 years, a convicted rapist who abducted and assaulted a woman in 1988 has finally faced deportation, but officials accidentally allowed him to stay in Britain. But next, Laila Cunningham, Reform UK's London mayoral candidate, joins me for live reaction to this second sensational defection of the week to Reform UK. That's next on Alex Armstrong Tonight.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power.
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bowl. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
All right, well, breaking news in the last hour. Conservative Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister and Romford MP Andrew Rosindell has defected to Reform UK. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Laila Cunningham, Reform UK's new London mayoral candidate. Laila, a pleasure to have you on the show as ever. Let's get your reaction, first of all, to this latest defection.
Well, I mean, Andrew defecting just confirms what we all know, right? The Conservative Party, especially in London, is finished. They're serious MPs who believe in borders, law and order, and national sovereignty are just leaving. Because reform is where that fight is now.
There's been quite... I mean, so London, we haven't seen as many defections. Reform UK's vote share in London is not the same as it is, let's just say, across rural parts of the country. Are you hoping now that with a London MP coming on to your team that might change a little bit, Laila?
Yeah, I mean, we are polling quite well where Andrew is, I think, quite significantly well. And in those outer boroughs, we're doing very well. But... yeah, I am, because so Andrew's defection really is symbolic of how utterly collapsed the Tory presence is in London. I mean, they only have 9 out of 75 seats, and every single one of them is going to go to us.
Why do you think it is? Why do you think the Tories poll badly in London? And what's different about Reform UK that will entice those voters who aren't voting Conservative?
I think the people I speak to, they feel that the Conservative Party, just like the rest of the country, Londoners feel it the same. They feel when borders are broken. Don't forget, London has the highest amount of asylum seekers in hotels than anywhere else in the country. We've just had a murder. London doesn't have any police. They did decimate law and order nationally, and that did have a massive effect on London more than the rest of the country. And, nobody owns a home in London. Yet the Tories looked young people in the face and said, we're the party of home ownership. And they didn't build half enough. And they let millions of people in and didn't even build a fraction of what was needed. So Londoners really feel the disappointment. They really feel the disappointment in the Conservatives. And they recognise that they don't want a party that speaks at them. They want a party that speaks for them. And I think that's where we're at. And again, I'm going to say this, that starts on May 7th. So this is just the beginning of the tsunami, I think, that's going to happen on May 7th. And that's why when I say it's just Khan v Cunningham for the mayor, I mean it, because the Tories, they're no longer in the race for London.
Laila, let's talk about defections in general. There's been a trickle over the last week. I was speaking to Danny Kruger just a couple of days ago about a Green councillor that's come over to Reform UK. Are you at all concerned that you could build this broad church that I think personally has really hurt the Conservatives? They couldn't get things like Brexit agreed amongst the party. Lots of things really tripped up that party because it was such a broad church. Is there not a concern that you're going to rebuild that same broad church with just under a different brand?
No, I think there's one major difference between us and the Conservatives and the Greens and Labour is that we have extremely strong leader who really has strong convictions, unwavering convictions. And that's something that the Conservatives have not had in a very long time. We have a leader that actually believes in the country and believes in the country's sovereignty, believes in prioritising British people. And I think that's something that the party hasn't had in a long time. And you know, I can guarantee you, Alex, if people who defect do not follow that kind of conviction and leadership, there will be no place for them in the party. And let's face it, Kemi just said yesterday or the day before that she was confident there were, what was it, did she say 100% confident that there'd be no more senior defections? And within days, we have a shadow minister. So it just tells you that those that are defecting are very aware that Nigel is unwavering in his convictions. And I don't think they've had that kind of leadership. So the broad church was allowed to almost pollute the real conservatism with a small c in the Conservative Party.
Kemi Badenoch said that Reform is a party of liars the other day in a conference. She points to Jenrick and his comments, of course, about the Conservative Party post his defection, of course. How do you challenge things like that? Because they're saying, you know, Jenrick wasn't honest about his defection. There's now accusations coming from other Tories about Andrew not being honest about defecting. Would you perhaps not get concerned that accusation that you're full of MPs that tell tales might, you know, stain your party?
I mean, the nature of defections is that they're secrets. I mean, if I'm moving job, I'm not going to tell my boss, you know, I'm leaving. I'm interviewing for other jobs. It's just the way things are done. It doesn't mean they're liars. It means that they don't want to tell the other person until the deal is done. And wasn't it her that was like goading people on the WhatsApp group to resign for Boris when Boris resigned? It was her. I saw, go on, do it. She was like a little bully on that WhatsApp group. So it's pretty rich coming from her. And talking about lying, you know, I mean, I'm not even going to say the lies that the Tory party that she's leading have told us. They keep looking us in the eye and saying that they're the only ones that can be trusted to fix what they broke. To me, that's lying. They don't admit, you know, he was courageous, Jenrick. And I think the sentence that really drove it home for me was when he said they are so complicit, compromised, that they can no longer speak for the people. And I think that was very well put. And I think that's how the country feels. Yeah, that's a similar sentiment here, looking at Andrew Rosindell's tweet as well. He said, well, he's accused the Conservative Party as well of selling out the Chagos Islands. Would your party rip up that deal? This clearly is a big part of what Andrew Rosindell has defected over. He said the issue of Chagos self-determination and British sovereignty represents a clear red line for me. He said that following direction from the top of the party, Conservative peers didn't vote down the bill that sold out Chagos. Would Reform rip up this bill if they got into office? 100%. I mean, not only are we giving over British sovereignty to basically China in a roundabout way, but we're also paying billions of pounds that we don't have for it. So, yeah, for me, I wonder, how can a government undermine its country so badly for no reason whatsoever? So we would rip it up, yes.
Well, I think Andrew will be pleased to hear that. Laila Cunningham, Reform UK's London mayoral candidate, thank you very much for joining me on the show this evening to give you a live reaction to, of course, another defection this week. Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Laila. Coming up, after 26 years, a convicted rapist who abducted and assaulted a woman in 1988 has finally faced deportation, but officials accidentally, somehow, allowed this bloke to stay in Britain. But next, is there hypocrisy over Greenland, especially when it comes to that thing I was just talking about, the Chagos Islands? This is Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Harry continues to impact parts of the Mediterranean, bringing in some wet and windy weather here. And actually, there's not a lot of sunshine to go around across parts of Europe. The best of the brightness across central and southern parts of Spain. Here's Storm Harry across the central Mediterranean, bringing in some strong winds, some heavy rain, and at times some thundery conditions. Perhaps a little bit brighter at times across parts of Greece. An improvement in conditions into next week, and temperatures widely in the mid-teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and there's very little change over the next few days. There'll be a lot of cloud around. Tonight we could see some frost where skies clear in places, but most places will be frost-free. Generally, a lot of cloud across the UK. This weather front continues to give some rain and drizzle. Another one coming in from the west later to give some spells of rain across Northern Ireland. But for most, a damp evening to come overnight, a lot of cloud around. There'll be some breaks from time to time across parts of southeast England, western fringes of England and Wales, and more particularly northern Scotland, where temperatures here could fall below freezing to allow a patchy frost. But with a lot of cloud around and murky conditions, temperatures hovering between 4 and 6 degrees. So Monday morning for most will be a cloudy start. However, across northern Scotland, some sunshine here, a frosty picture, some fog patches in places, but cloudier skies across western Scotland, down into Northern Ireland with outbreaks of rain here. A gloomy start to the day for much of England and Wales as well, with patchy rain and drizzle, though some sunshine for western Wales, down into Cornwall to start the morning. A few brighter breaks towards southeast England as well. And then through the day, very little changes. A lot of cloud across the UK. Weather fronts are slow moving, so rain persistent through the day across much of Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, though sunshine holding on across central areas. Elsewhere, generally cloudy with rain and drizzle and hill fog, and temperatures similar to the last few days, generally between 8 and 11 degrees Celsius. So near average, just feeling on the chilly side where you are stuck under the cloud and rain all day. On Tuesday, still a lot of cloud around, but I'm hopeful there'll be a few more brighter breaks for a time before the next weather system brings heavier rain and some stronger winds into western parts of the UK, and then generally turning wetter and windier as we move through the week, and temperatures, particularly in the south, above average.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has been accused of hypocrisy over his stance on Greenland. While the Prime Minister insists Greenland's future must be decided by its people, some say he hasn't applied the same principle to other territories like the Chagos Islands, where the UK government's actions have been controversial. It comes after ongoing diplomatic tensions after current US President Donald Trump threatened tariffs on the UK and other NATO allies linked to Greenland, a move Starmer condemned as completely wrong and pledged to contest diplomatically. Well, we're now joined by First Minister of the Chagosian Government in Exile, Misli Mandarin, and political commentator Andy Twelves to have this out. OK, well, thank you both very much for joining me. Misli, I'll pass it over to you first. Is the British government hypocritical here? They're not giving you a referendum, they're not caring about Chagosian sovereignty here, but they are talking about the sovereignty of Greenland, which also is a colony of Denmark.
Hello, Alex. Thank you for having me. It's utterly
hypocrisy of the Labour government of Keir Starmer. Don't respect his own people as British. But now, that narrative to it, the argument to it, which is very wrong and deeply saddened for us and make us angry, saying there's nobody in there. Have to remember, it's the same Labour Party in the 60s, early 70s, deported, forcibly exiled my people from their homeland. To come and say there's no people there, we don't have right, is utterly disgusting. Treat us like animals, and I'm very angry about it.
I can understand that. Andy, do you accept the charge that the Labour government is being hypocritical over its stance here?
I think you can blame Keir Starmer for lots of things, but I think the removal of Chagosians in the 60s is not one of them. I don't even know if he was alive then, and if he was, he would have been an extremely young boy. I don't think it is hypocrisy. I think they're two separate foreign policy issues. I would expect everyone to condemn, even Nigel Farage, even Kemi Badenoch, even Keir Starmer, even Zach Balansky. Across the political spectrum, every single leader says that what Trump is trying to do in Greenland is completely wrong. It's not not a technical foreign policy issue. It's effectively a declaration of war, whether that's a trade war or an actual boots on the ground war that he wants to take a country that is not his because of minerals. It's got nothing to do with the Chagos Islands. They're two completely separate foreign policy issues.
The question is it hypocrisy? We can't say that Greenland, which is a colony, and bear in mind, when you read the bill that when we sold off the Chagosian Islands, or we're paying for the privilege of it, that it was part of reparations to Mauritius. Now, you can't argue that we shouldn't have colonies on one hand, and that the Chagosians, who have been forcibly removed from their country, are right we could rectify by giving them a referendum on this, and then say we want to protect the sovereignty of another nation's colony.
I mean, it happened over 60 years ago. I was certainly not alive when it happened, and I probably wouldn't have supported it. The ICJ have made their position clear that our occupation of the Chagos Islands is illegal and we have to withdraw. That is the basic fact. I'm sure the ICJ would also say that Trump annexing Greenland would also be illegal, because it is. I don't think every single European leader, every single political leader in the UK condemning, Trump's attempt at fascism is hypocritical to the UK government, the Tory government, the Labour government's position on the Chagos Islands at all. I do not.
Ms. Lee, what do you make of Andy's comments?
No, this is completely wrong, right? It's always, I'm not here, by the way, for playing politics. It's always the Labour Party is in denial. The Labour Party under Harold Wilson in the 60s, Labour Party exiled the Chagosian. They was not conservative, it was Labour Party. Saying you were not born in the 60s, I completely agree to it, but my father, he was born in the 50s, and he still feels that suffering still. To come on the show now and talking like we doesn't exist, this is insulting.
I agree that it was wrong, but you can't blame Keir Starmer, you can't blame this Labour government for what happened in the 60s. Howard Wilson has been dead for almost 2 decades. This is not Keir Starmer's fault. It's not, he didn't, call up Harold Wilson in the 60s and go, do you know what I really want? I want you to, throw everyone out of the Chagos Islands. That was not what he did. The ICJ have made their position clear that our occupation of the island is illegal and we have to withdraw. The ICJ, I'm sure, will make it clear that the annexation of Greenland is also illegal. I think, following the ICJ's rulings and reports on this, it is a sound interpretation of foreign policy.
Is Denmark's colony of Greenland legal to you in your eyes? Do you welcome the fact that they have, they've taken over and colonised a piece of land there? Should they not be afforded a referendum?
It's not in my eyes or your eyes, Alex, or Ms. Lee's eyes or anyone's eyes. It's the ICJ's eyes. It's the law. It is legal. No one in Greenland is complaining about being a colony of Denmark.
No,
they're not.
Well, the Inuits, some of the Inuits.
I know that some, GBNews presenters like Ben Leo have, assimilated so well to the US that they're willing to take the spanking from Papa Trump, to get their ratings up over in the States. But frankly, every single British person does not go. I don't think he would. Every single, British person that is patriotic would not accept tariffs in this country because Trump wants to play fascism. I do not think it's an appropriate
I've made it very clear. I don't want tariffs on any countries. I don't want tariffs on Britain. That's going to hurt it. But when it comes to Chagos, there is a clear hypocrisy, isn't there?
No,
we're talking about
not.
It's a colony. Greenland is a colony. We're talking about sovereignty of a country. Chagos people have sovereignty. The Greenlanders have sovereignty. We've got Emily Thornberry saying we must respect the sovereignty of Greenlanders. Ms. Lee, do you feel that there's a hypocrite when it comes to there's hypocrisy when it comes to foreign territories and British government stealing of our foreign territories?
Definitely. It seemed like when the judgment said, oh, it's not Keir Starmer's fault. We have to remember, Keir Starmer is the Prime Minister of this country, of United Kingdom. He needs to look after Chagos. Chagos, the treaty in been signed, but not been ratified. Keir Starmer, as a leader of this country, got the right to stop that ratification right now and save British citizens. It seems like Keir Starmer is not looking after British terrorists. After my terrorists, I'm British, and it is very important. The epical to it is very, very wrong, and it's hurtful as well for Chagosians.
OK, Misley, look, before you go, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has said that the newly defected Andrew Rosindell's decision to move to Reform UK is described, of course, as he's described the Conservative Party as hypocritical on its stance on the Chagos Islands. He's actually, Andrew Rosindell, in his resignation speech, has said that the bill that could have shot down this Chagos Island surrender deal was scuppered by the Conservatives, who were following direction from the top of the party. What do you make of that?
I fully support Andrew's decision, because Andrew was here since day one. Andrew did not start supporting Chagosian a few weeks ago or a month ago. It was years and years and years. But the key thing is, we have to remember who started the negotiation. It was the Tories, the Conservative, and then the Labour under Keir Starmer just finishing the jobs. So the Keir Starmer, for me, both of them, they are not right. I'm not here to play politics, but who is in power now is Keir Starmer. He got the power to change our life and to stop this ratification of to give British sovereignty away to a foreign country, basically China.
OK, well, listen, both of you, thank you so much. Thank you to the First Minister of the Chagosian government in exile, Misley Mandarin there, thank you, and political commentator Andy Twelves. A very hearty debate there. Coming up next, a migrant rapist has been allowed to stay in Britain for decades. How has this happened? And, of course, a reminder of the breaking news in the last hour. Conservative Foreign Shadow Affairs Minister and Romford MP Andrew Rosindell has defected to Reform UK. More on that next.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dawdley, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Get this, a migrant rapist has been allowed to stay in Britain after the Home Office waited nearly, get this, 26 years to start deportation proceedings. The man, who is now 56, was jailed for 19 years in 1988 for abducting a woman and raping her 3 times. Typically, serious offenders serving prison terms of more than 4 years are sent home after their release, but a judge has now ruled that the delay has now made his deportation unlawful. In 2024, the dad of 2 won a final appeal and was allowed to stay in this country. Well, now joining me is human rights lawyer Shawab Khan. As always, a pleasure to see you, Shawab, and to talk about this interesting topic here. This is a massive failure of the Home Office, of our justice system, of our immigration system. He should have been deported a long time ago. How has this actually happened? Just to give the audience a little bit of background.
I mean, I think, like you just said, I mean, the Home Office just sat on the case, really. It seems that they didn't do anything. And obviously, you know, it's been about almost 40 years since he was convicted, at least 20 or so, when he must have been released from prison. And then the Home Office probably took a decade or 15 years or however long, once he was released, to actually, you know, realize that, oh, this is someone who want to deport. And that's when they started the proceedings. And again, I mean, showing a failure of the system. I think apparently it's 2016 when the proceedings were started. And in fact, 2024 or 25 when the judgment was actually made. So even once the proceedings were started, it took almost a decade again. So yeah, like you're saying, I think it's a very, very sad indictment of our system. And in fact shows that, you know, as with many other cases, all our governments previously and the current government just have their priorities completely wrong, really.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with that, Shawab. And should he not be deported now, though? At this point in time, he's committed a heinous crime in this country. Many people, of course, will point to others that have been allowed to stay even though they commit bad crimes. Why is it we can't deport people who do this?
Yeah, I mean, so of course, I mean, like you said, obviously it's a heinous crime, and that's why he was sentenced to 19 years. And presumably he served his sentence as he was required to do. But obviously, I mean, I think it would be very, very unfair if he was deported now. Like I said, 40 years after he committed the offense. Now, what is the point of deportation? If we're saying it's just a matter of, you know, taking revenge, somehow the state wants to take revenge, you know, you did something wrong, we have to punish you for the rest of your life as much as we can. But other than that, if what we say is, you know, the usual purposes or aims of any criminal sentence or punishment, you know, rehabilitation, making sure they don't reoffend. But I think within 40 years we've seen he's not reoffended as far as we know. He is rehabilitated, he is married, like you mentioned, he has 2 children. So I'm not sure what we're going to gain by punishing him other than just for the sake of it, just, you know, pure vindictiveness. You committed a terrible offense, so you need to be punished even more.
Is there not a point of saying, come to this country at any point in time and commit these crimes and you will be deported? Is it not about tough law in order to deter future crimes like this? Yes, you can make the argument, and I can see, you know, it's the state's fault. He should have been deported many years ago. That is the state's responsibility. But it doesn't send a strong message, does it? It sends a message that, well, if the Home Office managed to forget about you and are incompetent somehow, which they often are, you'll be allowed to stay here even if you commit a heinous crime. Do we not need to have a tougher law and order stance here to deter these crimes in the future?
I don't think we do, no. I mean, I think that, I mean, what we do need to do, like I said, isn't something that this government isn't doing. No government's done for, you know, at least 2 decades or so, is actually focused on the Home Office. I think it's been years and years now, a decade or so, you know, where so many people have been saying we need to just abolish the Home Office, start all over again. And we know that's true. I think that's, you know, it doesn't matter what sort of, you know, political background you come from, what your political beliefs are, who you support. I think that's just true for absolutely everyone. But just no one has the, you know, the determination actually, or the intention to do that. You know, once they come into power, they just get on with things as they are. And, you know, just spending millions, billions, hundreds of millions trying to control it, but not actually doing, you know, what needs to be done. I mean, we have delays in the Home Office, as we saw here, decades long, years long. We complain, for instance, about, you know, something unrelated, but for instance, asylum hotels. The point is, you know, whatever the reality, whatever we think about whether those people should be on hotels, why are they waiting years for a decision? I think that's the main problem. Wherever they're living, they shouldn't be waiting years for a decision.
Yeah, well, sure. I think we actually both agree that the state here is ultimately responsible, and it's failed us time and time again. It's a damning indictment, isn't it? Shahab Khan, thank you for coming on the show to talk about this case tonight. Really appreciate your time. A Home Office spokesperson had said this: "We will not allow foreign criminals and illegal migrants to exploit our laws. We are reforming human rights laws and replacing the broken appeal system so we can scale up deportations." The Home Secretary has recently announced sweeping reforms to tackle illegal migration. They will make Britain a less attractive destination for illegal migrants and will make it easier to remove and deport them. All right, listen, sex offences are up massively, but before we do that, we're going to talk about this fascist word that's being thrown around at Reform UK. We're going to play a game. That's next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and there's very little change over the next few days. There'll be a lot of cloud around. Tonight we could see some frost where skies clear in places, but most places will be frost-free. Generally, a lot of cloud across the UK. This weather front continues to give some rain and drizzle. Another one coming in from the west later to give some spells of rain across Northern Ireland. But for most, a damp evening to come overnight, a lot of cloud around. There'll be some breaks from time to time across parts of southeast England, western fringes of England and Wales, and more particularly northern Scotland, where temperatures here could fall below freezing to allow a patchy frost. But with a lot of cloud around and murky conditions, temperatures hovering between 4 and 6 degrees. So Monday morning for most will be a cloudy start. However, across northern Scotland, some sunshine here, a frosty picture, some fog patches in places, but cloudier skies across western Scotland, down into Northern Ireland with outbreaks of rain here. A gloomy start to the day for much of England and Wales as well, with patchy rain and drizzle, though some sunshine for western Wales, down into Cornwall to start the morning. A few brighter breaks towards southeast England as well. And then through the day, very little changes. A lot of cloud across the UK. Weather fronts are slow moving, so rain persistent through the day across much of Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, though sunshine holding on across central areas. Elsewhere, generally cloudy with rain and drizzle and hill fog, and temperatures similar to the last few days, generally between 8 and 11 degrees Celsius. So near average, just feeling on the chilly side where you are stuck under the cloud and rain all day. On Tuesday, still a lot of cloud around, but I'm hopeful there'll be a few more brighter breaks for a time before the next weather system brings heavier rain and some stronger winds into western parts of the UK, and then generally turning wetter and windier as we move through the week, and temperatures, particularly in the south, above average.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
Hi, I'm Jane. I won £54,321 with the Great British Giveaway. Oh, definitely please enter. It is real, and that one text has just made my life 100% better.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Good evening, it's 10 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong. Tonight on the show, it seems like I bring you breaking news every evening now, doesn't it? There has been another defection. Breaking news tonight, Conservative Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs and Member of Parliament for Romford, Andrew Rosindell, has today defected to Reform UK. That is 2 in 1 week. Are we about to see a flood of Tories heading over to Reform UK? Also tonight,
is a straightforward discussion. Would you actually use the word fascist about a Nigel Farage-led government or not?
I guess I would just say that if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, in my experience, it usually is a duck.
There's a lot of quacking going on, isn't there, in Westminster at the moment. The Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, seems to accuse Reform UK of being a fascist party. Well, tonight, we're going to play a new quiz show called Is It Labour or Reform Policy? Trust me, it's going to be really good fun. Also,
we need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland.
well, is the Labour government guilty of sheer hypocrisy over Greenland's sovereignty when Chagosians didn't even get a vote before their country was given away to Mauritius? Also, the number of schools marking Holocaust Day has halved since Hamas terrorist attack happened on October the 7th, 2024. Are our schools captured by anti-Semitism? Also,
reforms will help us prevent crime in the first place, because that's the way that you do your work, to tackle it when it happens, and to stop it from spiralling.
A shocking new map reveals the UK's worst sex crime hotspots, and with sex crimes on the rise, I'm going to tell you how bad your area might be. And the front pages are dropping fast. The Independent leads with Europe delivers a warning to Trump after tariffs threat. And to talk about all these brilliant topics tonight, former Tory MP Anna Firth is here, pub landlord, should I say, and activist Adam Brooks is joining me, and Labour councillor for Waltham Forest, Sebastian Salek, is here too. You never know, he might be Lord Brooks one day, eh?
I'll take it.
Yeah, he'll take it, right? He'll take it. There you go.
Just PM, I'll take that.
Right, OK, there you go. That's a challenge to you, Nigel Farage, clearly. And what do you think's going on here?
We are live over downtown Minneapolis, where, yes, that is a protester in a Viking costume riding what appears...
Might explain why I was late into the studio. Is this AI? I don't know. It's hard to tell these days, isn't it? A huge 2 hours coming up. Trust me, your evening is just getting started. But let's get your news headlines with Bethany Elsey first.
Alex, thank you. Good evening. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom at 2 minutes past 10. Reform UK has gained another Conservative MP as the Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs Andrew Rosindell defects to the party. Rosindell, who's been the MP for Romford for 25 years, first joined the Conservative Party when he was 14 years old. Nigel Farage cited the Conservative Party's so-called hypocritical position over the Chagos Islands as his reason for defecting, but a Conservative source has accused the Romford MP of stabbing his friends and colleagues in the back, while the Labour Party chair Anna Turley says it's evidence of a failed and dying Tory party. But the Reform UK leader has welcomed the move, describing him as a great patriot. And some breaking news, at least 7 people have been killed and more than 100 injured after 2 high-speed trains derailed in southern Spain. Spain's state-run broadcaster RTVE says the accident happened in Ademuz, near Cordoba. An unknown number of people are still trapped in the overturned carriages. Pictures on social media show the devastation, with responders helping to evacuate the passengers. Sir Keir Starmer has spoken to Donald Trump about Greenland this evening. It's understood he reminded the US president that security in the High North is a priority for all NATO allies. It's after Trump imposed a 10% tariff on all goods from Britain and the EU and threatened to increase it to 25% unless he's allowed to buy the Danish territory. NATO members have held an emergency meeting and agreed the president's demands undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. The Shadow Home Secretary Priti Patel says the UK's position is that the future of Greenland should be up to its people and Denmark.
Number one is reiterate the strength of NATO and that alliance. That's important to our security and defence. We should speak with one voice and stand united when it comes to dealing with aggressors such as Russia, when it comes to our Arctic security. And then, of course, make the case, as always, we believe in open markets, that tariffs are completely counterproductive and it will hurt the people in America just like it would hurt the British people here.
4,500 properties in the Maidstone area of Kent and hundreds more in Tunbridge Wells have little to no water supply. It's after an electrical fault at a treatment works and a burst main pipe. They're the latest problems to affect South East Water customers after days of similar disruption earlier this week. The company says the fault has been fixed, but that it'll take time for supply to return to normal. And Australian news outlets are reporting a teenage boy is fighting for his life after being attacked by a shark in Sydney Harbour. The boy, believed to be just 13 years old, suffered serious leg injuries and was taken to a children's hospital. He was swimming at Shark Beach, which has since been closed, and people have been told to avoid the area. Those are your latest headlines. Let's get back to Alex.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
All right, we're going to have a little bit of fun here on the show tonight because today, Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy said this.
Is a straightforward discussion. Would you actually use the word fascist about a Nigel Farage-led government or not?
I guess I would just say that if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, in my experience, it usually is a duck.
It's just this whole duck analogy really got me, I don't know why. So anyway, listen, I thought we should come up with a new game show. And we're going to call this game show, Is It Labour Policy or Is It Reform Policy? And I'm going to be joined by my fantastic panel to talk about this. Joining me on the show, Sebastian Stalik is here, Adam Brooks is here, and Anna Firth is here. We're going to play this game together. Listen, I'm not a game show host normally, so I don't know if I'm going to mess this all up, but let's find out, all right? This is a little bit of fun. You've got your buzzers. Can you tap your buzzers for me? Right, so yours is like a boing. Do that one again. Anna? Adam? So, first person to get the question answers it for me. Right, we're going to start with this. Is it Labour or Reform policy? First question on the show. Curtailing jury trials. That was Adam.
Labour.
No!
What were you going to say, Anna?
Labour policy.
Sebastian? Yeah, Sebastian's got, yeah.
I just thought I was first.
We can say, yes, it is Labour policy.
Got to be quick
This
here.
is Justice Secretary David Lammy's little baby. He has claimed that the policy is designed to reduce pressure on an overloaded criminal justice system. Critics, of course, argue that, of course, this carries serious constitutional implications and rips up the Magna Carta. Next question. Cancelling elections. I think that was Anna. Is it Labour or Reform policy?
It's Labour policy.
OK, tell us a little bit about what's happened here, Anna.
I think now, well, last year we had Labour cancelling elections and cancelling mayoral elections, and this year I think it's Steve Reid, the Secretary of State, who has basically said to councils, if you write in and say you want to cancel your elections, we, of course, will be delighted. So basically they are inviting councils to cancel elections, and I think 48 councils, is it 48, 28? 4 million voters are being denied the right to vote.
And there's a few Conservative ones as well.
Unfortunately, there are.
Uni-party, stitch up.
Sebastian, any comments?
Well, it's a little bit silly spending taxpayers' money on an election if you're only going to have people in post for a year. So let's let those councils who want to crack on, reform their local government as they should do.
That's not democracy.
No, democracy is a fundamental right.
Right, well, listen, let's get on to our next question, show, because we've got a couple more of these to go.
See, we're not the uni party.
Of course, just to confirm, it was Labour policy. Of course, you were right, Anna, there. Of course, talking about the Tories, Kemi Badenoch has said she will not force her councils to hold elections too. All right, next question. Is compulsory identification for all citizens a Labour or Reform policy? Sebastian?
Neither.
Go on, tell us why.
Well, Labour are looking at dropping mandatory digital IDs. Reform, I don't think, are massive fans of this, so no one's putting the policy up.
I think it was a Labour policy, but isn't this just their latest U-turn?
Let's be honest here. Let's tell the viewers why. Labour got hit with a 3 million petition against digital ID, mandatory digital ID. They realised that they'd messed up in a big way and that there was going to be protests and people weren't having it. So they've had to U-turn. But they're going to try and do it via the back door. Let's be honest with that.
So basically it is Labour policy.
Well, yes, it has been Labour policy. So, Dean, yes, Labour government has signalled it will roll out digital ID to all citizens, despite it not being in their manifesto, of course. Rumours do suggest that the government will U-turn on mandatory rights to work checks. It's a bit different, a little bit different. Reform UK have rejected any form of digital ID, calling it Orwellian. They said they would rip it up if they won an election. Next question. Banning social media. Is it a Labour or Reform policy?
So this is a Conservative policy, which is going to be voted on tomorrow. It's a brilliant policy, brainchild of Laura Trott, supported by Kemi Badenoch, and I really hope that Labour are going to support it tomorrow and that we are going to ban social media for children under 16.
Adam?
No, it's state control. More state control over our lives and our children's lives. Good parenting should be enough. We should be trusted to bring our children up the way we see fit and with the controls that we see fit. It is not in the government's remit to control our lives the way they are doing.
So you're happy for these multi-million-pound companies to be profiting by putting filth on our internet?
No, my children will not look at the filth.
But your children won't, Adam.
We'll get stuck into this in a minute. There is an argument to be made here that it is Tory policy, you're right, but Labour also have suggested they would ban X over its AI tool Grok that has been used to make sexualised images of women. The government's the threat at least seems to have been withdrawn as X has changed its rules. Other AI platforms are yet to face any criticism from the government over similar tools. However, next question, Islamophobia laws. Is it Labour or is it Reform policy? Adam, I think you just answered that one. Yeah, go on. What's going on there?
Well, they're trying to get a definition that works for them. But at the end of the day, it's just going to be, what is the word?
They're going to call it anti-Muslim hate laws.
No religion, for the viewers, no religion should have more protection than any other religion. Yeah, and that's how I see it. Yeah. And that is what this will do.
Yeah, so you think this is going to introduce backdoor blasphemy laws?
I don't think so. We have a definition rightly of anti-Semitism. We should have some kind of language around what Islamophobia means so that we can fight it, because it is a scourge in our society and we should wipe it out. OK, it is Labour policy, correct, Adam. Labour looks set to release a watered-down version of Islamophobia laws, possibly dubbed anti-Muslim hate. Critics warn this would have a massive implication on free speech in Britain and bringing in blasphemy laws through the back door. Also, unrelated,
Record numbers of people in Britain have been locked up for some sort of free speech crime. Official custody data shows that in 2023, UK police made around 12,183 arrests under Section 127 of the Communications Act and Section 1 of the Malicious Communications Act 1988. These laws cover sending messages that are, of course, grossly offensive, indecent, obscene or menacing, or that cause annoyance, inconvenience or needless anxiety. Final question. Banning political critics from the country. Has it been Labour or Reform policy? Any ideas?
Well, I'm going to go Labour, because the Dutch girl that is on the right was banned from coming in this country, but Labour will allow hate preachers, Islamic extremist hate preachers into this country. So
yes.
They are hypocrites.
You're
and inconsistent.
Right. Arguably, it is Tory policy too, but seeing as we were only doing Reform and Labour, it is a Labour policy at the moment. Well, last week, Adam's nailed it. European right-wing influencer Eva Vlaardingbroek had her visa denied to enter the United Kingdom on the basis her presence in the UK is not considered to be conducive to public good. The Tories also banned entry to multiple speakers on that same claim. And should we have our next quiz, I don't know, what do you guys think? Is it a Tory or Reform MP? Given the defection tonight...
I think the quiz should be Tory versus Reform, because actually, if you look at all the polls since this year, it's now Reform have come topping them, but second are the Tories. 8 out of the 10 polls, Tories are in second place. So I'm sorry, Sebastian.
That supports my point. We shouldn't write you off. We really shouldn't.
Yeah, Sebastian, what do you think? We'll come back to I'll come back to the desk now, because it's a bit weird me standing over here while we go on debate. No, I think obviously we were talking. This is all because of these, I think, very silly comments made by Lisa Nandy. We've seen similar comments by the Justice Secretary, likening them to Nazis and things like that. This sort of rhetoric, it doesn't get us anywhere, does it? And actually, all it does is create divisiveness. And I don't think Lisa Nandy, who is the Culture Secretary, who also talks all the time about needing people to come together, it helps the political discourse when we're throwing around silly phrases like, oh, we might be fascist party here. I don't think Reform is fascist. I don't think any political parties in Britain are exceptionally like the Nazis. Sebastian, it's a bit of a silly thing to say, do you not think?
I think we have to be really, really accurate about what was asked and what was said. She was asked whether there was a risk that they might become fascists in government. And frankly, she didn't answer the question head on, which I think is telling in itself. Now, is there a risk that Reform becomes fascist? Maybe. We don't know. We haven't seen what happens yet. I'm slightly concerned that Reform is a party that is essentially owned by one man, legally. It's a limited company, and for a party like that to be in government would be extremely unusual. I'm also very disturbed by Reform's immigration policy and its talk of mass deportations and deportations of legal immigrants.
Brilliant.
To me, that starts moving towards fascism. I'm not going to say that they've gone there yet, because I don't think they have, but it's certainly trending in that direction.
Nothing to do with fascism. If I move to Spain and I hit on hard times and I cannot contribute to the Spanish economy, they will deport me. It's not racist. Whatever colour my skin is, it's just simple economics. They do not want drains.
Policy, because that wasn't quite the issue. It was right to remain being scrapped, those people then having to reapply for some sort of right to live here and potentially being denied.
Unfortunately, the Tories have given millions of people the right to remain that shouldn't be here.
That is a concern.
Well, well, there is a point here, Anna. The Tories did... We've referred to the Boris wave quite a lot, and there's a lot of people that came into Britain, a lot of them on very silly visas, we have to admit. We look at some of the nursing visas, the health and social care visas, a lot of those were, even by the Tories' own admission, a bit bogus, a bit silly, people who aren't contributing. Do you think there's a charge here that that is fair from what Adam's saying, which is actually deportation shouldn't be seen as some sort of fascist thing that we do? It's just actually a sensible party policy. Tony Blair was deporting far more people than any Tory government did, by the way.
I think there's two issues here. I think absolutely we should have controlled immigration, and that was the whole point of the points-based system, and we need to get back to using it. And you're absolutely right. Too many people did come in during COVID, but there is some mitigation, there is some explanation for that, because at the time Boris and Priti Patel and whoever else was around his cabinet table, they were petrified that we might run out of people in the care homes to look after people, and that's why they allowed people to come and to bring their relatives. That was the big problem. At the same time, we had students here who weren't going home, so that boosted numbers. At the same time, we had Homes for Ukraine, and we also gave refuge to people from Hong Kong. So yes, we had that massive bulge. Now it has decreased, but of course we should be controlling immigration. That is a different thing from deporting people who have been in this country for many years and who have made a contribution. That's where I part company from Adam, because if they have made a contribution, and if they are capable of continuing to make a contribution, then I don't think they should be deported.
Let's go back to this fascist statement. I find it really difficult when I hear politicians say stuff like this or infer it in some way, because I think it actually degrades the level of politics we should be having in Britain. We're a civilised nation. We don't need to be insulting each other to score political points. Do you think this is part of a tactic to smear the party, or do you think that this is a fair criticism?
I think this is incredibly lazy, poor politics from Lisa Nandes. She is the first one, and on this point, I'm going to support Adam. She's the first one to accuse Nigel Farage and Reform of stoking up division, and yet by her using loose language like this, that is exactly the sort of thing that stokes up division. So she's the culture secretary, and she's stoking up culture wars.
Well, look, Lisa Nandes was not being lazy. She was being devious. She was projecting to manipulate public opinion of the Reform Party. Let's remember, Labour are cancelling elections. Labour were forcing digital ID on people. Labour are forcing facial recognition cameras throughout the UK, OK? They're cancelling jury trials. They're threatening to close social media platforms. They're locking people up for speech crimes or online crimes. That, for me, is the definition of fascism. So they are saying that we are what they are, and that is a manipulative tool to try and scare people from voting Reform.
Do you think
No, I don't. I think they're an authoritarian government that needs reining in.
But you've just listed a load of things that allegedly they've done and said that that's the definition of fascism.
Well, for me, it's nearer to fascism than anything. It's nearer to fascism than anything that Reform are saying that they're going to do.
That doesn't quite add up then.
Why not?
Well, because you said these are certain things that Labour have done that are fascist, but
they're labelling Reform as fascist when they are nearer to fascism than Reform on their current policies.
Well, I think this is the thing, isn't it? And this is why I asked the question, because actually when you start talking about what fascism is, when I ask a lot of people, they can't even define it. And by using these silly words, far right, fascist, we actually take the power away to actually point fingers at people who might be those things. And that is very dangerous for a society, and you smear possibly millions of people with the word fascism. It creates a very, very dangerous environment.
But also we're distracting from the central question, which is that we have a government in power which is destroying our economy. And that is the biggest problem.
Well, there we go. There we go. Listen, what do you think at home? GBnews.com/yours. Say, someone put me a definition of fascism in the chat, please. Time now for the Great British giveaway and your chance to win an incredible 85 grand. Here's all the details.
There's only 2 weeks left to ensure you're in the draw to win our biggest cash prize so far. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
Hi, I'm Jane from Manchester. I won £54,321 with the Great British Giveaway. It is real, and it does happen to everyday people like myself. And that one text has just made my life 100% better.
But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, coming up, we're going to get stuck into the front pages, but next.
Forms will help us prevent crime in the first place, because that's the way that you do your work, to tackle it when it happens, and to stop it from spiralling.
A shocking new map reveals the UK's worst sex crime hotspots, and with sex crimes on the rise, I'm going to tell you if your area might be the most affected. And a reminder of that breaking news in the last couple of hours. Conservative Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister and Romford MP Andrew Rosindell has defected even to Reform UK. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
That you finally got your MBE. Well done, sir.
Absolutely, and thank you very much indeed. Yeah, I'm so honoured, to get it. I could not believe it when I got the letter saying, they were going to honour me with it. I can't wait to go and collect it now.
And Paul, no doubt when you go and meet His Majesty, you might have some kind of funny quip to say to him. What are you going to say? To me, to your Majesty?
Well, I might say, not from you to me, hopefully. It depends who it is, doesn't it, as well? I might be stum. Sometimes I can't say things much, but who knows? I mean, I'm just really looking forward to collecting it. It's I feel so honoured.
And Paul, of course, as well as services to comedy, which this wasn't for, though heaven knows it perhaps should have been, this was for services, your recognition of your fundraising for Marie Curie for cancer, of course, because your brother Barry sadly passed away of bone cancer. And since that time, you kind of made it one of your missions to raise awareness, and that is why the King has given you the nod. Tell us about your charity work.
Well, both Barry and I were both ambassadors for Marie Curie for about 6-7 years before Barry passed away. It was just such a fabulous thing. You know so many people that have been looked after by Marie Curie in the later age. That's obviously because the age we are getting to that sort of age. Lots of our friends and family are passing away. And the Marie Curie, they just everything. When my father-in-law passed away, he was on what you say his deathbed. And a Marie Curie nurse sat up with my wife all night long. She didn't have to, but they sat there for like 7 or 8 hours with her. It was, they're just wonderful people. They do a lot more than people realise they do.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Well, these shocking new figures reveal the UK's sex crime hotspots, with Cleveland in the northeast recording the highest rate of sexual offences. That's 4.7 per 1,000 people, well above the national average. Recorded crimes including rape, assault and grooming have risen overall, partly due to added categories of offences. Some say slow investigation times and low conviction rates leave many victims without justice, while police forces say they're improving victim support and investigative practices. Well, data also shows West Yorkshire and Avon and Somerset among the highest rate areas. I'm now joined by Director and Policing Lead at Women's Rights Network, Kathy Larkman. Kathy, thank you very much for joining me this evening. When I saw this map earlier on, I was really shocked, and some surprising locations there of them all. Somerset and Avon really stood out to me. It's not an area that I'd expect to have or see such a high rate. What's driving this, in your opinion?
Well, thank you for having me on tonight, Alex, first of all. Yeah, I mean, there are some surprises, aren't there, really, within these figures? I think, you know, Cleveland, for instance, is a very, very small police force area, and the rate of 4.7 is well above the average as reported. What we've got to remember is that 4.7 per 100 people is actually a lot worse than that. And it's a lot worse for a few different reasons. We know that the vast majority of victims of rapes and sexual offences are women. And we also know that the entire population of Cleveland isn't female. So when they say 1,000 people, we are actually probably talking up to 9.4 offences per female head of population here. So that's almost 1 in 100 women are a victim in Cleveland. And that's quite shocking, really. And the other fact I think we have to bear in mind from this, really, is these figures are actually the tip of the iceberg. Most sexual offences, most rapes go underreported for a variety of reasons, which I'm more than happy to discuss with you. But the system, you know, the system is baked in, really, to disbelieve and to blame women. And, you know, obviously the figures are sort of indicative of that as well. I mean, the other areas are sort of interesting as well. And of course, there could be, without sort of digging further into the details, and there could be cases where there are multiple offences recorded that could have sort of spiked their figures, really, and made their figures disproportionate. But I think it's also worth... Sorry.
I just wanted to ask, because, look, we've been talking about this National Grooming Gang inquiry for a really long time, and, of course, it is hopefully kicking off this year if all goes well. And we're still seeing a rise in things like grooming across the UK. Have we just completely lost grip of... and it's running completely wild here in Britain, despite us having national conversations about this? Why is nothing changing, Kathy?
It's just gone on for years, isn't it? It's endemic, really. And, you know, I take your point about grooming and the lack of inquiry in relation to that, which, you know, is a public scandal, really, you know. But the whole issue of the data, you know, not just for grooming, but for sort of all sexual assaults, really, is woefully misunderstood. If I can quote from the Angiolini inquiry set up after the abduction of Sarah Everard by a serving police officer in the Metropolitan Police, Dame Angiolini said, and I'm quoting, "Based on police recorded data, it was not possible for policing or government or the public to understand the problem of sexually motivated crimes in public places." That is a horrific statement and an indictment of, you know, our entire criminal justice system. It's like as if they cannot even be bothered to understand the scope of what they're dealing with. So it shouldn't be any surprise then that these figures are out there and that there is so little in terms of outcome in relation to them as well. Only 3 in 100 rapes actually result in a charge. And that's not even looking at the conviction rate.
Oh, Kathy, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I know it's a difficult conversation, but we need to be having it nationally and more often. We do need to talk about this. Kathy Larkman, thank you so much for joining me. I'll just bring this over to my panel. Adam, what do you make of this? Some of these crime statistics are absolutely horrendous, and Kathy made the point as well. They're actually probably way higher because we calculate it by the entire population rather than just by the women. Yeah. Who are mostly the ones affected.
So I speak a lot even about London. There are many women that I know that will not go into London because they're scared. We see some data last week, the British Transport Police data. I think 37% of the arrests for rape were migrants. That's just scary. London is changing and the UK is changing. And look, women need to be safe. I've got 2 daughters myself and I want things to improve. I want tougher deterrence, tougher policing. Things have got to change.
London's a funny one, though, because I'm just looking at this data and I'm reading through it. Cleveland top, as we've discussed, West Yorkshire, Avon and Somerset, Greater Manchester. You're down to about number 30 before London comes up. So doesn't that show how much safer London is?
There is a rape reported every hour in London.
And I don't doubt that.
And that's just reported. Many women say that they don't report that.
Of course.
So it's an underreporting rate.
That.
Okay.
But what I'm saying, and this is just the data that we've been given by The Sun, is that per capita, the level of sexual offences in London is far lower than so many other parts of the world, of the country. So why do we zero in on London? Why is London even in the conversation?
A quick word from you on this, Anna, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I think it is concerning. Obviously, I mean, we've got sexual offences up by 9%, but rape up by 6%, and yet only 3 in every 100 reported rape offences even see someone charged, let alone convicted. That is not good enough. But the worst thing in London is the knife crime, and that we have made progress on outside London. I know we're not talking about knife crime, we're talking about women, but just to get that in Sadiq Khan's London, knife crime is rife, and that needs attention too.
All right, listen, coming up next, I'm sure Sadiq Khan would argue that he's, doing his best to tackle it all, he's getting the numbers down a little bit this year. That's what he would say. Anyway, look, next we're diving into the front pages. On the front page of the Daily Mail, NATO now heading for disaster in Trump row. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight. You're not going to want to miss these front pages.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Harry continues to impact parts of the Mediterranean, bringing in some wet and windy weather here. And actually, there's not a lot of sunshine to go around across parts of Europe. The best of the brightness across central and southern parts of Spain. Here's Storm Harry across the central Mediterranean, bringing in some strong winds and heavy rain, and at times some thundery conditions. Perhaps a little bit brighter at times across parts of Greece. An improvement in conditions into next week, and temperatures widely in the mid-teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and there's very little change over the next few days. There'll be a lot of cloud around. Tonight we could see some frost where skies clear in places, but most places will be frost-free. Generally, a lot of cloud across the UK. This weather front continues to give some rain and drizzle. Another one coming in from the west later to give some spells of rain across Northern Ireland. But for most, a damp evening to come overnight, a lot of cloud around. There'll be some breaks from time to time across parts of southeast England, western fringes of England and Wales, and more particularly northern Scotland, where temperatures here could fall below freezing to allow a patchy frost. But with a lot of cloud around and murky conditions, temperatures hovering between 4 and 6 degrees. So Monday morning for most will be a cloudy start. However, across northern Scotland, some sunshine here, a frosty picture, some fog patches in places, but cloudier skies across western Scotland, down into Northern Ireland with outbreaks of rain here. A gloomy start to the day for much of England and Wales as well, with patchy rain and drizzle, though some sunshine for western Wales, down into Cornwall to start the morning. A few brighter breaks towards southeast England as well. And then through the day, very little changes, a lot of cloud across the UK. Weather fronts are slow moving, so rain persistent through the day across much of Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, though sunshine holding on across central areas. Elsewhere, generally cloudy with rain and drizzle and hill fog, and temperatures similar to the last few days, generally between 8 and 11 degrees Celsius. So near average, just feeling on the chilly side where you are stuck under the cloud and rain all day. On Tuesday, still a lot of cloud around, but I'm hopeful there'll be a few more brighter breaks for a time before the next weather system brings heavier rain and some stronger winds into western parts of the UK, and then generally turning wetter and windier as we move through the week, and temperatures, particularly in the south, above average.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've got your front pages right here. Let's go through them together, shall we? The Independent. Europe delivers a warning to Trump after tariffs threat. The Metro, reclaiming the tea break. Mail, NATO now heading for disaster in Trump row. The Guardian, EU weighs up 93 billion retaliation for Trump's Greenland blackmail. The Mirror, Trump's Greenland madness, and leading the GBNews.com website tonight. Another member of Kemi Badenoch's top team defects to reform, and at least 5 dead after high-speed trains are derailed in Spain. Keir Starmer, another story here, holds court with Donald Trump over wrong Greenland tariffs. Now, listen, we're going to come back to those stories because there's some interesting stuff there about Greenland. As you can see, it's dominating the headlines for yet another day. And we will dig into that because there's some interesting stuff about the EU retaliating, you know. We'll definitely dig into it. But I want to bring you this story that we didn't get to bring you earlier on because it's very important. The number of UK schools marking Holocaust Memorial Day has more than halved since the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. Figures have shown participation fell from over 2,000 schools in 2023 to just 854 this year. Well, I'm now joined by the great-grandson of a Holocaust survivor, Dov Foreman. Dov, thank you very much for joining my show this evening. This was very concerning to me when I saw this number. Do you think it's directly correlated to what's happened on October the 7th? And if so, why?
Well, look, that fact should trouble us deeply. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight, but it's a stain on our country. Holocaust Memorial Day exists every year on the 27th of January, the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, to remember the 6 million innocent Jewish men, women and children murdered in the Holocaust, systematically murdered for no reason other than the fact that they were born Jewish. And it's got nothing to do with today's conflicts. It's not a commentary on that. It's not a political gesture. It's an act of human memory, and a moral one too. And when we begin to treat the remembrance of the Holocaust, perhaps the greatest crime in human history, as something that must be justified, balanced, or even avoided now in some cases, I think we reveal as a society how fragile our commitment to that day has become. And I think it also shows that the rising anti-Semitism that we have seen over the last 2 years has not happened despite Holocaust education. It's actually happened because those who were partaking in the Holocaust education and those teachers who were supposed to be delivering it actually never really believed in it. Many of them were simply waiting for an excuse to say that they weren't going to teach it anymore.
Yeah, we've seen, of course, some shocking cases like the Batley school teacher, of course, still in hiding. How bad do you think this infiltration of political ideology that is anti-Semitic, in my opinion, it goes into our schools, Dov?
Well, it's not just anti-Semitic, it's anti-Western too. These people are educating young people across the country to hate Jews and also in turn to hate everything that Britain stands for and all those values that we, the British Jewish community, a patriotic community, have felt under attack for so long now. And I think it's important to say that the Holocaust did not begin with the end of the road as we know it. It didn't begin with the gas chambers or with the death camps. It began in classrooms with teachers spreading conspiracy theories, spreading lies, and with the slow normalization of hatred, not just again of the Jews, but of society as they knew it then, with the othering of a certain group of people, with people deciding that certain lives mattered more or less than others, and crucially though, with silence. With decent people looking away because they felt that it wouldn't target them and they felt that it would be easier than speaking up. And I think today we need to commit ourselves, when we're only a week away from the next Holocaust Memorial Day, we need to commit ourselves to remember and to say that we're not just going to stand idly by, but we're actually going to call this out. And again, it's not just against the Jews, it's against all that we in the West stand for.
Well, Dov Foreman, thank you very much for joining me. This is a really important topic, and I appreciate you coming on the show this evening, albeit a little bit late. Thank you very much. I'd like to get the thoughts of my panel on this story as well, because I do think it's very telling. I mean, a lot of the time when I'm building this show, I think about what do the audience need to know about the state of Britain. It's why we cover such a broad variety of topics. And this one, this massive drop, Anna, in the Holocaust Memorial Day being remembered in schools is quite shocking.
I think extremely shocking. I mean, a nation that forgets its history is bound to repeat it. And how do we stop forgetting our history? And in this case, I'm obviously talking about world history. It's by teaching our children in schools. And I think it's absolutely fundamental that we remember, not just for the victims and the survivors of those families, but that we make sure our children understand what can happen when a fascist party rises to power like that and is unchecked.
Yeah.
So I think it's
Sebastian,
fundamental.
do you think Bridget Phillipson needs to get involved here and do something about this, or is this not a matter for the state?
Well, MPs are intervening in a different sense, in that the Holocaust Memorial Bill is going through Parliament at the moment. It's on the verge of passing, and that will unlock funding for a Holocaust Memorial Learning Centre, which is incredibly important, and I'm really pleased that's happening. I think the point that Dov made that really struck me was around how atrocities like the Holocaust happen, and they start with spreading hatred. And I would call on all of us, whether we're sat around this table or watching at home, to think about everything we say, everything we post online, and ask ourselves, is this in any way spreading hatred? And if it is, we shouldn't do it.
Adam, I remember reading a story about a Jewish MP, Labour MP, I think it was, in Bristol, perhaps, that was not allowed to go to a school recently. I think that's the story. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong later on the show, but I'm pretty sure that's roughly accurate. Is there something happening in our schools?
Yeah, anti-Semitism has become trendy in Britain and the West. It's become trendy for left-wing teachers, left-wing students to join this movement and openly attack Jewish people. I've got many Jewish friends and they're scared to live in this country. I've got other friends that are going to Dubai. They're Jewish. They're taking their children to the Middle East because they fear for their kids' safety in Britain. Now, again, I've said this numerous times. If there was 3 million Jews instead of 300,000 in this country, the political class and the police would treat them a lot different. We have seen protests outside synagogues. The police would never allow protests outside mosques. So there is two-tier policing, there is a two-tier justice system and two-tier political thinking when it comes to Jews in this country. And it's very, very sad and very worrying, because once they're done with the Jews, they will come for the rest of us. That is my opinion.
Yeah, and it's a lot of viewers, GBNews viewers, tell me they feel there's a two-tier society developing. Do you think that's a fair accusation about Britain?
Well, I do think that we've got a two-tier justice system, and I'm afraid I put a lot of that at Keir Starmer's door. I think the way he stoked things up after the Southport murders was absolutely appalling, and the way we had somebody imprisoned for a tweet and somebody else who actually had a jury trial acquitted in 17 minutes. That, I'm afraid, is two-tier justice, and that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, Sebastian, it's a fair charge. A lot of people feel. I'm not saying it's necessarily true. You can argue whether it's right or wrong, but people do feel there is a sense of two-tier Britain. Do you think the government needs to sort of address this issue? Because it does affect the way people want to behave and live in Britain. We've seen this West Midlands police chief constable get off, seemingly, at least at the moment in time, scot-free. Home Secretary could have done more if she wanted to. She didn't go further. Is there a charge here that Labour's just not on the ball?
Well, bizarrely, the Home Secretary didn't have the power to intervene.
Certain powers she could have used if she wanted to.
OK.
But yes.
But
for all
no,
intents and purposes, the Crime Commissioner, Simon Foster, who's a Labour Crime Commissioner, didn't act.
No, he didn't. I think more broadly, it strikes me as odd that the people who accuse us of living in a two-tier society are overwhelmingly on the right. And I just wonder whether there is political motivation there.
OK.
I just don't hear that in
a lot of the time it's us being targeted. We can say things, but people on the left can say far worse things
and get away with it. Well, if you say things that break the law, you should face justice.
All right, well, listen, we're going to have to leave it there because I want to bring you the front pages, of course. The Times are saying this. The Prime Minister warns of a downward spiral in US tariffs row. As it's been reported, Starmer will hold a press conference tomorrow on Greenland. I wonder if the coalition of the willing will be there, or the useless, whatever you want to call them. That's coming up next.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
So it comes down to money.
doesn't it always follow the money, follow the money? And, you know, big tech is a big business. It is a very, very powerful industry. And it's pulled a blinder because it has convinced government and schools, teaching unions, you know, the individual local authorities that are responsible for procurement. It has convinced everyone that tech is either not harmful in the case perhaps of social media and smartphones, or actually beneficial. And it's a lie. I mean, it's a complete lie. The evidence is there. It is harmful.
There are plenty of examples in society where there are things that we know that are harmful to children, or that they may come with risks and benefits associated with them. Let's say contact sports, for example. Let's say giving them junk food. But we still give parents the right to make that decision because we believe in the rights of parental responsibility over state intervention in those areas. What makes those areas different to the risks and benefits associated with digital use for kids?
Yeah, I mean, look, absolutely. And I, as you know, as Rennie knows, I'm about as libertarian as one gets, certainly for adults. I do think when you know, the intersection of individual choice and freedom with child welfare and child safety is rather different. And I think there are many examples of areas where a problem is too big for individual parents to solve. I mean, you've mentioned contact sports, and I think that's a really good example because, of course, there we all have the choice as parents whether our children should or shouldn't engage in contact sports. But phones are rather different. I mean, certainly smartphones, and I think that, you know, you do have a distinction with phones versus edtech. It is literally mandated by schools, and there is no legal right for parents to opt out. So there is no choice.
GB News, the People's Channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Right, let's return to your front pages. More of them have just landed. The Telegraph, Europe threatens to strike back over Greenland. The Times, Prime Minister warns of downward spiral in US tariffs row. The Express, fears Trump's tariffs threat will rip NATO apart. The Eye, trade war looms with America as UK and EU unite against Trump's Greenland threat. The Sun, Jesse Love splits after twins. Agony. All right, well, I've got my fantastic panel here. Should we stay with the Daily Mail? Because it's quite a punchy headline here, isn't it? And as you can see, they're all saying the same thing as they did yesterday. NATO now headed for disaster in Trump row. UK's official warning as EU aims £81 billion worth of trade bazooka at America. Adam, is this going to do anything? Can Europe really hold America hostage backwards here with the size of their economy versus Europe's economy?
I don't believe so. I'm not an economist, but I do not believe they can collectively hurt the US very much. Trump has been calling out NATO and contributions to NATO for over a decade now. He's obviously got a bee in his bonnet. One thing I will say, I do not want any foreign leader to hurt Britain financially or threaten us. But Keir Starmer is seemingly aligned with Macron, who I do not believe is our friend, and other European leaders that, again, I do not believe they're our friends, against our oldest ally and our most powerful ally. And I think a lot of his rhetoric is hot air at the moment. I think it's threats. And I think he's very disappointed in Keir Starmer, how we've acted and how he sat on the fence and he hasn't been strong as an ally. I will reiterate that. I do not believe Donald Trump likes Keir Starmer in any way whatsoever. I think he despises the man.
Interesting.
So I do not think that helps our relationship at all.
Anna, what do you think of these tariffs? It's a difficult situation for the Prime Minister to be in, because he's made a lot of his international stage stuff about how good he's dealt with Donald Trump. Now he's on a list with only 7 other countries, I think, or was it 7 in total? It's not that many. Places like Italy have got off scot-free from this. Have we sort of got ourselves into a bit of a state here?
No, I have to say that on this, I actually back the Prime Minister. Remember how Margaret Thatcher took Ronald Reagan to task when he sent troops into Grenada. She was absolutely furious. Yes, America is our biggest ally. Yes, we have a special relationship, but that does not mean that we just roll over and we are America's poodle. There is a very important principle at stake here, and that is that the people of Greenland have a right to stay part of the Kingdom of Denmark if the majority of the people want that. And the polling shows that they overwhelmingly want to stay part of Denmark. I'm afraid Trump he's acting like a bully boy here. Yes, yes, we want to, you know, we want to have a long-term relationship with him, but we must stand up for what is right. And NATO needs to do that, and they are doing it.
Yes, Sebastian, my argument is, and I don't want tariffs, but I think we might have weakened our economy so much and globalised it so much that actually this is so easy for Trump to do to us.
The point is that he's doing it in the first place, though, isn't it? And, you know, we had a whole debate a moment ago about who's a fascist and who's not in British politics. I think it's pretty clear if anybody's coming close to it, they're sat on the other side of the Atlantic. This is just not something you do to your allies. OK, well, listen, we're going to be talking about this a lot in the next hour because it is dominating the front pages. Adam Brooks, lovely to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Let's get your weather, and I'll be back with you in just a tick.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and there's very little change over the next few days. There'll be a lot of cloud around. Tonight we could see some frost where skies clear in places, but most places will be frost-free. Generally, a lot of cloud across the UK. This weather front continues to give some rain and drizzle. Another one coming in from the west later to give some spells of rain across Northern Ireland. But for most, a damp evening to come overnight, a lot of cloud around. There'll be some breaks from time to time across parts of southeast England, western fringes of England and Wales, and more particularly northern Scotland, where temperatures here could fall below freezing to allow a patchy frost. But with a lot of cloud around and murky conditions, temperatures hovering between 4 and 6 degrees. So Monday morning for most will be a cloudy start. However, across northern Scotland, some sunshine here, a frosty picture, some fog patches in places, but cloudier skies across western Scotland, down into Northern Ireland with outbreaks of rain here. A gloomy start to the day for much of England and Wales as well, with patchy rain and drizzle, though some sunshine for western Wales, down into Cornwall to start the morning. A few brighter breaks towards southeast England as well. And then through the day, very little changes. A lot of cloud across the UK. Weather fronts are slow moving, so rain persistent through the day across much of Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland.